We're back on this beautiful Tuesday to talk about some more Pauper cards because it is common knowledge time. Our first card of the day is Slag Drill Scrapper. It's a single red mana for an artifact creature, Robot Scout. And it's a 1/2, and you can pay 2 and tap it, sacrifice another artifact or land to draw a card. This card's okay. It really is. It's something you can get out on turn 1, which red certainly likes. 1/2 is pretty solid stats for a single mana, especially in red. I think that's not bad at all. This can block a couple things. It can, swing in nicely against your opponent's 1/1, and you don't have to worry. They're probably not going to even block it. They'll just take the damage at that point. These are all good things, just on its own in that way. But this other ability is pretty good. Actually, before we get to the ability, it's also an artifact. And having artifacts, there's other artifact 1-drops that you probably play in red a little bit before. You probably play that Clockwork Percussionist before you play Slag Drill Scrapper, most cases. But it does have this little extra gravy, the 2 and tap ability. You can't sacrifice itself, which is a bit disappointing. It would be nice to be able to sacrifice this in the late game to get that extra card. But sacking an artifact or even a land in Pauper, that's fine. You don't want to sacrifice your lands right away, but sacking a land later in the game for a card for just 2 mana too, pretty good. Like, you have lands that will sacrifice themselves for 4 mana, but you also have to sacrifice that land and just for a card. So to have a much cheaper cost for something like that can also sacrifice all your little artifacts. This can sacrifice a Cryogen Relic or an Eker Wellspring, and you get even more card advantage out of that. That's pretty cool. All on a single red mana to get the creature out in the first place. I think that's all right. Like, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space in your deck. It takes a slot that is, I guess, in mono red is pretty competitive, but in a lot of decks is less competitive because 1-drops are generally not the strongest things. So to have a 1-drop that can do stuff in the early game but also have a lot of utility in the late game is pretty cool. I think this is a good, solid card. I have not seen it be played in a lot of Pauper decks, but I think it has the potential to. So I'm going to give this something relatively high for the cards we've been seeing so far this week. I'm going to give this a 4.8. 4.8. I mean, every bit of it. I think this is solid. Damn near playable, but definitely solid. Good start. Next card is Soul of Magma. It's 3 red and a red for a 2/2 spirit. And whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, this creature deals 1 damage to target creature. That's pretty disappointing, right? It was 1 damage to anything. If it was 1 damage to each opponent or 1 damage to target opponent, I think maybe we'd have something slightly more on our hands, but it's still, you paid 5 mana for a 2/2. That's kind of like a much worse impact tremors. That's not good. That's not good. Even my champions of Kamigawa love cannot find the goodness in Soul of Magma, and that's rough. That's rough. I know I've talked about it on our previous episode, but I have a Champions of Kamigawa block Pauper deck. Like, it is only made up of cards of Champions, Betrayers, and Saviors of Kamigawa. And it's red-green, and it also doesn't play this. If you have a Pauper deck that is that specific on the cards that it plays, and it still can't find a place for this that meets all of those criteria, it's even a Spirits-focused deck. It's a deck about playing Spirits and having them bounce back to your hand and you playing them over and over and over again to get value. And Soul of Magma still doesn't make the cut. It's that bad. This is a 1. This is a 1. We just had a pretty solid card, and then we go to a 1. That's disappointing. Let's keep moving on to our next card, which is Mortal's Ardor. It's a single white mana for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains lifelink until end of turn. I kind of don't hate that. I think that's all right. I could probably end up getting more value. There are probably cards out there that do a little bit more than this. In black, we've got the Unexpected Fangs that gives a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter. Now that costs 2 mana, and again, it's in black, not white, but the permanent +1/+1 and the permanent lifelink mean a lot more to me than a combat trick for a single turn. It can get you out of some sticky situations. It can do work on both offense and defense. It can kind of do both at the same time. You can offensively attack with this thing, or attack with something and give it the 1/1 and lifelink. So you're swinging in for more damage and you're gaining more life out of the deal at the same time. These are good things. I also like the art. I like this kind of Spartan guy over here. Good job, Kev Walker, who always does good work. Yeah. That's just... I don't think it's quite enough. It's interesting, though. And I want to give it points for being interesting. I'm going to give this a 3.3. And skip on to our next card, which is Blood Age General. It is 1 and a red for a 2/2 Spirit Warrior, and you can tap it to give attacking spirits +1/+0 until end of turn. If this was in Kamigawa, maybe it would have made that Kamigawa Pauper deck I've got, but this is from Strixhaven instead. It's obviously very specific. You need to have a spirits deck, and there aren't a whole lot of spirits decks in Pauper, outside of, my weird one that I would say is extremely not good. And even if I put this card in it and opened up to other planes outside of Kamigawa, I would still probably not play this card, and it probably still would not be very good. This guy doesn't really have a home anywhere. He's not even really a lord because you got to tap him to do it. The spirits have to be attacking, so you can't even use this on blocks. That's pretty rough. Although it does say just attacking spirits, it doesn't even say attacking spirits you control. So not that this works in Pauper, but if you're playing Commander, I guess your opponent has a bunch of spirits. Okay, here's an idea. This is not useful for Pauper, but you've got Forbidden Orchard, which is the in fact, let's just take a look at it. It is a land, Forbidden Orchard. It's a land originally from Champions of Kamigawa. But you tap it for mana. It taps for it's an untapped land that taps for any color of mana. Wow, pretty great, right? But whenever you tap it, you got to give an opponent a spirit creature token. Doesn't fly, which is probably good. Giving it flying would be a little too good for your opponent anyway. But imagine just giving your opponents lots of little spirits and then being able to tap this whenever, if they attack your opponents, and make little deals out of that. That's a really bad political thing, but it's got my gears turning a little bit. This card's bad. It is 2 mana for a 2/2. That's basically a grizzly bear right there with a little extra gravy on it. Spirit and Warrior are halfway decent creature types. Not so much in Pauper, but at least generally not too bad of creature types. But it's still real rough. Let's give this a 1.5. Next card is Surge of Zeal. For a single red mana, you get an instant that has Radiance. Target creature and each other creature that shares a color with it gains haste until end of turn. In a monocolored, in a monocolored deck, this can give all your creatures haste. What if you just put out a bunch of red creature tokens of some kind, like a goblin-y kind of deck? You put out a bunch of goblins, and you get to give them all haste. Still not very good. I mean, you're in red, so a lot of creatures are just going to naturally have haste anyway. I would say even a lot of those cards that just give you creature tokens, whether it's human creature tokens or goblin creature tokens, generally those creatures get haste, or the ones that you play give them haste anyway. And like not giving you any sort of power boost or any boost at all, but not a power boost. Like that's, I think you really want that in red for this to really mean something. Radiance is an interesting ability. But it also works for your opponents too. Not that this one specifically doesn't really work for your opponents because, okay, you give all your opponents creatures that share a color haste as well. Well, it's your turn. So unless they played them and they still have summoning sickness and can't use their tap abilities, generally that doesn't matter. Or I guess they could block a Ginger Brute, which you do sometimes play in red. The point is that I don't think this is enough for you, and on very rare edge cases, it can actually benefit your opponents in some way. It's real rough. Man, let's give this a. I don't want to give it a straight up 1, but it's real. I'm going to give it a 1.1. I think it's not an actively bad Magic card, but it's real close to being actively bad. Next up, oh boy. Not a very good card, but a card I think is real cool. It's Ebony Rhino. It's 7 whole mana for an artifact creature Rhino. It's got trample and it's a 4/5. A 4/5 trampler for 7 mana. It's asking a lot. It's asking quite a bit. Originally from Homelands, and only really from Homelands. This is an online set. Yeah, it's not good. I was looking at Ebony Rhino because I have a mono green Tron deck. And so I was thinking about, okay, how can I make, like, what creatures can I get out with all this colorless Urza land mana? And I was looking at the, colorless creatures that cost like 5 and above that were Pauper legal. So I'm looking through a bunch of these, and you just look at Ebony Rhino, and you just laugh. You're like, he's a little cutie, but he's not good. He's not good. Let's give him a 1.6. Because the only time you are going to play him is in something like a Tron deck where you just have tons and tons of mana, and there are so many other creatures you'd play over this instead. But imagining that you have a deck that just generates a lot of mana, I suppose there are worse things you can do than having a 4/5 trampler out there. It's okay, but the cost is generally too much for the effect that you get. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Oh, here's a card that is not just not bad, but is good. It's a good card. We don't get to see a whole lot of those, so we got to celebrate them when we see them. Campfire here is a single mana for an artifact. You can also pay a single mana and tap it to gain 2 life, or you can pay 2 mana, tap it, and exile this artifact to put all commanders you own from the command zone and your graveyard into your hand, and then shuffle your graveyard into your library. The second effect isn't as useful in Pauper. You don't have a commander in Pauper. You do get to shuffle your graveyard into your library, which mill is not the most common thing you see in Pauper, but there are some mill strategies that happen, or even self-mill strategies where maybe you get dangerously low on cards in your library. Sure, it's kind of nice to have an insurance policy that way. But generally what this is a sideboard card that goes against mono red aggro or any really aggressive deck, because it is just 1 mana for 2 life every single turn. And that's pretty good. It's pretty good just to have a repeatable way to keep gaining a little bit of life and keeping those aggressive red and even white decks at bay. Campfire's a good card. Campfire's a good card. So it's not necessarily a main deck thing that's going to see a ton of play, but it does show up in a good number of sideboards that I've seen. I've got a handful of copies of this card in some decks. It's good. It's a good card. And good cards get good scores. Let's give this a... Oh, boy. I'm going to give this a 6. I'm going to give this a 6. If we say 5 is like a playable Pauper card, I think this is a 6 in a pretty solid sideboard staple. I like it. Bonds of Quicksilver is 3 and a blue for an aura. It's got flash, and it enchants a creature. Enchanted creature doesn't tap during its controller's untap step. Originally from Scars of Mirrodin, but also shows up in Conspiracy. 4 mana, even at flash speed, is a lot for one of these effects. And I think you have enough of these effects that also when they come into play, they tap the creature down to begin with, and then the creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So with this card, you have to wait for somebody to tap a creature for whatever reason, whether they're tapping it for an ability or tapping to attack with it, and then you get to play this. This also very obviously doesn't work with creatures with vigilance, because those creatures just won't tap even when they attack. So you're really going to want that effect that is able to tap the creature when it comes down and gets played. And I think when you're paying 4 mana for this, you want it to actually get rid of the creature. You don't want to have taken the hit or have made a chump block or something just to be able to play this card and not have to worry about it again. You should just be able to pay 4 mana and not worry about the creature. In black, you can pay 2 mana and just kill the creature, right? Or even in blue, you can pay to bounce the creature back to their hand. And yeah, it's temporary, but it at least is the kind of temporary that you don't really have to worry about it, and you can keep going on with your plan in the turn. You can use it as kind of a combo-y way of doing your thing on that turn. And this card doesn't really allow you to do it. You have to play it at your opponent's tempo, and that's a little rough. I mean, I guess what you could do is kind of threaten your opponent by putting this on an important creature of theirs, even that's untapped. So they know that if and when they ever try to attack with this or ever try to tap it for some other reason, that they'll never be able to untap it. So maybe they pick their spot on when to attack you, but that's not good. You should really just remove the creature at that point. And blue has so many better options for just removing a creature, or you give it the witness protection treatment where you just turn it into a smaller creature, or an unable to scream, which just turns it into a 0/2 with no abilities. And I think you're going to play those cards 10 times out of 10 before you play Bonds of Quicksilver, which is disappointing. I remember when I liked the brand Quicksilver, the snowboarding and surfing gear company. So I remember I had kind of a Quicksilver phase where I bought up every Magic card that had Quicksilver in it, and that's why I own a Quicksilver Dragon, which I love. I think Quicksilver Dragon. Well, I'll give you a little look in case you haven't seen it. I think Quicksilver Dragon is one of the better looking Magic cards ever printed, at least from an art standpoint. The card itself is not all that amazing, but look at this thing. Look at that Ron Spencer art especially from Onslaught. Whew, that's a hot card right there. It's not a great card generally, but it is, card I really remember and really like. That also means I have a Quicksilver Elemental, which was not $28 before. Certainly not when I bought it a long time ago. Actually, I might have just owned this. I might have gotten this from a Mirrodin pack because, again, I was playing back then. But this shot up because of VV, because you can copy the ability of VV, and then you can keep copying Vivi, and every time you copy it, it's like a new version of Vivi's effect, so you get to keep using it, and it just makes you infinite mana, and that's disappointing that it made this generally just fun, cool creature into something that now costs a bunch of money until Vivi gets banned. And even if Vivi gets banned in Standard, it doesn't really matter because this wasn't in Standard. This is a Commander combo that people are going to keep using until Vivi gets banned in Commander. And I don't think Vivi is ever going to get banned in Commander. So I think this card is just now always going to be, maybe not always at this price, but it's always going to be high, and that's sad because it's actually a really cool card. And also, my copy is not is not in very good condition. I love my copy to death, but it's certainly not worth $28.51 in the condition it's in. Yeah. Anyway, that's a very long way of saying that Bonds of Quicksilver is 1. Yeah, I think it's a 1. I think this card is really bad, especially for the price. It needs some kind of cost reducer on it to even make it somewhat playable, and it's I wouldn't even play it then. Just better cards. Moving on to Wild Griffin. It's 2 and a white for a 2/2 flyer. That's it. It's a Griffin. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Not very good at all. Phew. Now I remember this card. I was like, I don't remember that art, but I remember this Portal Second Age and Starter. Yeah, okay. I played during 10th edition. I wonder why I don't remember that art, but I certainly remember this art. It's still is bad. I just like the art better. This is a Windrake, right? That's what a Windrake do. Yeah, 3 mana 2/2 flyer. That's a Windrake. White can do better than that. Like, blue is known as the color of generally bad creatures or overcosted flyers. White should be better than that, and this card is not. Yeah, this is you don't play this in Pauper. It needs to have some kind of ability to make it something to consider, and flying's not enough of an ability. Not for 3 mana anyway, and not for 2/2 in power and toughness. This is real bad. It's a 1.2. And we'll move on to what I believe is the final card of the day. It's Blood Vassal. For 2 and a black, it's a 2/2 Thrall, and you can sack this creature to add 2 black mana. So it's it's like a bigger blood pet. Blood pet. Look at this guy. Like the Tempest one. Look at that guy. But yeah, he's another Thrall that you sack and you gain mana, so you can kind of like ritual effect it. And Blood Vassal does a similar thing, but you have to pay a little bit more up front to get a little bit more on the back end. I don't think anybody really plays Blood Vassal. You can just straight up play Dark Ritual in Pauper, and that's a 1 mana instant that gives you 3 mana back. So it's just a better deal. I mean, yeah, this can block. You can even Sakura Tribe Elder kind of block with this and then sacrifice it so the damage doesn't go through, but you still get the mana from sacrificing it. That's a little less useful, though, because you're sacrificing it on the opponent's turn at instant speed, so you have to use that mana right then. I think you're just really playing for Dark Rituals if you do need this effect, and honestly, I don't even see Dark Ritual get played in Pauper all that much, which is wild to me. Why would you not? Why would you not play Dark Ritual? It's one of the best Magic cards ever made. And it's legal in Pauper. It's not legal in all formats, but it's legal in Pauper. This card's great. People should play Dark Ritual. It does show up. It does get played some places, but not enough. Not enough, in my opinion. Anyway, this card is fine, but it just has better options. We'll give this a 3.1. And let's do one bonus card. How about that? We'll get Spiteful Shadows to end this today. It is 1 and a black for an aura enchantment. Enchants a creature, and whenever enchanted creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to its controller. I am more fond of this card when it is called Ragged Veins, because that's a Kamigawa card. But that also can go at flash speed, which is better. But when enchanted creatures dealt damage, its controller loses that much life. So it's the same thing, except Ragged Veins is flash speed, and this is not. And that matters. That matters when you have this kind of effect. Imagine your opponent trying to block with a big creature that they've got, and you have they don't even need a big creature. They're just going to chump block. You've got a giant creature. Your opponent just has a tiny little thing, and they think, oh, I can chump block and I'll still live. And then, bam, you play Ragged Veins, and no, they still take the 8 damage, and they also lose their creature. I think Ragged Veins is actually a pretty cool card. I would like to see it find more play, but Spiteful Shadows, I don't think you really even need 4 Ragged Veins in your Pauper deck, so you certainly don't need any copies of Spiteful Shadows, and that makes this pretty unappealing on the whole. I would give it a 1.7. It's not only a card that is outclassed by something else that also doesn't see play, but it's just an effect that is oftentimes too narrow and too inconsequential. That, yeah, you get to basically stop one creature from blocking. In Pauper, you just play another creature more often than not. Like, if you're playing a deck that is able to block creatures, you probably have other creatures that can just do the blocking. And so, I think if you do want to play this effect, you really want to have it at flash speed so you can surprise the opponent and not just have them go, oh, okay, well, I'll block with my other 1/1 token. Like, this effect just doesn't do what you really want it to do, and that makes it pretty disappointing. So let's end it there on this Tuesday, and we'll see you for Hump Day tomorrow with some more common cards. Till then, catch you next time.